Do you like movies, comic books, science fiction, and more? Then you come to the right place. This is the Rebel Radio Podcast. You can find us at therebelradiopodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and join our Patreon for just $2 a month where you get exclusive episodes. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to a new episode of the Rebel Radio Podcast. This is Mark.
This is Matt.
What is up, Matt? No long tonight. He's either taking the week off or he just decided that a Kevin Costner movie isn't worth it. Either one, I'm not sure.
Yeah, could be a mix of the two.
It could be. It's not one of the better Kevin Costner movies, but it's still not. It's not the train wreck that people believe it to be. But we'll get to that in a little bit when we get to the featured film. But how are you, man? How's your vacation going? Your what do they call it when it's a man? It's paternity leave, right? For
paternity
a man?
leave, yeah. They cut it in half, man. I was kind of hoping that I would get the longer paternity leave, but you know, it used to be 6 weeks, but now it's 3. But it's still, I mean, it's a hefty amount of time. It's already pretty much almost up. I'm about to go back to work in like 3 days.
You're fucking complaining about free time off. Shut up. But I know the feeling that when you have a newborn, though, it never feels like it's long enough. But unfortunately, the real world calls to make money for that new little one that you have. So
yes,
and I guess
very
that's
true.
That's what's important because he's going to poop and he's going to eat and he's going to poop some more. So you have to have food and diapers.
That's right.
That's just the harsh reality of having children. They poop and they eat a lot. I swear, since I've been home today, Wyatt has pooped twice. Waverly has pooped like 3 times. It's like my life is just poop,
Just poop.
And, yeah, just always changing poop pants or diaper or whatever. And my 5-year-old Wyatt, of course, is struggling to learn to poop in the toilet, so he just decides to go in his underwear, and that's always fun. It's like,
wow,
thanks, Wyatt. I really wanted to clean up crappy underwear, and now that everyone listening are talking about kid poop, yes, we are. But that's the
right.
life of dads. Kid poop.
Kid poop.
And yes, I mean, you think about it, by the time you're done with Samuel going through diapers, man, you maybe add up how many diapers you've changed and gone through over 4 boys. You've probably changed poop like 1,000 times, dude.
Probably. There's some days where it's like, all I get is the poop diapers. She'll be like, oh, yeah, he made a gift for you.
Yep. It's always dad's gift.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you wouldn't change it for anything, and that's what matters.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
And lots of fun, man. But again, if I haven't told you enough already, congratulations, man. You have a small herd.
Yes, a small herd. That's probably it's a good way to put it. One short of basketball team.
Yeah, but we carry on with the Rebel Radio Podcast as we are still recording remotely as COVID-19 is still ravaging the world. It sucks. 2020 has not been what anyone expected it to be, but we hope that we bring you some entertainment and fun doing the podcast. I mean, we want things to get back to normal. We miss doing our live shows at Misfit Toys. We missed Compalooza this year. Hopefully sooner than later, but let's face it, at this point, being that it's almost July 1st, I'm pretty sure the rest of the year is going to be like this. I don't think anything's changed until after the first of the year. And I've kind of come to accept that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And hopefully sometime in the spring, in the late winter or spring of 2021, hopefully things are kind of back to normal once they get that vaccine and treatments out there, and that's the best we can hope for at this point. So,
yeah, I have to agree.
But we don't want to be somber. We want to have some fun. We want to talk a movie, and we want to talk how the things are going. And we got a lot of big news this week we're going to talk about later. I mean, that Michael Keaton news is freaking phenomenal, as we'll get to later. And but download this. It's where we start the show with what we've watched, streamed, or played recently. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch shit this week, but I have been playing something I started playing last week, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But Matt, man, what have you checked out while you've been staying home?
Yeah, so I watched all 8 Harry Potter films, or at least the first 8, not including Fantastic Beasts. I did that. I watched Commando for Father's Day because I was like, why not? Why not watch maybe Arnold's best father role? Unless you count him being the Terminator as a father role, but yeah. So
what about Jingle All the Way? Yeah, he was a terrible father, but at the end of it, he comes through. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just I like the there's some cool cheesiness in Commando. I watched a little bit of Conan because it was on HBO Max. Conan the Barbarian's on HBO Max, and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, you gotta see Arnold as Conan swinging the sword around and the cheesy action. I was like, because it is kind of cheesy. You have some cool lines, but for the most part, it's cheesy. But I mean, it was a hit. I mean, you can watch it, and it's still fairly entertaining today. But yeah, Commando, it's one of those films that's very 80s, and it's got all the cheesy one-liners in it. The stick around, and he's got the ejectable knife that just fires out, and painting himself in war paint and grabbing the rocket launcher. And of course, now that rocket launcher is iPhone X case number 1 because of the way the camera looks. Got the quad missile launcher camera on the iPhone.
All right.
But I want to say, other than that, I want to say that's all I've watched. Is just those movies. I tried to watch. I wanted to watch a horror movie, and I started to watch Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, but I didn't get much into it. I remember that's the one that's really bad. I think that's the worst one second worst one in the franchise. I think 2's the worst. 5 is second worst.
I don't know. Freddy's Dead is pretty bad too.
Is that the Final Nightmare? Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
Yeah, that was not very good either. I mean, let's face it. Most of those are pretty bad, except for 1. 3 is decent, and then the New Nightmare is pretty decent. Other than that, they're all pretty
New
bad.
Nightmare. Yeah.
And I take that back. I say I was only playing some. I have been on a Superman kick lately, and I watched the theatrical version of Superman 2 the other day. And,
nice.
Oh, excuse me, I'm burping on the podcast, and I really like that sequel. I think that I know people want to talk about the kiss that changes everything back to normal is kind of silly and whatever, but it is what it is. I'm not going to knock it too much, but I like the sequel, man. I think Terrence Stamp is really good as Zod. The action sequences in the city at the end of the film, I think, are really good for 1981. I really like Superman 2. There's times I like it a little more than Superman 1, but then I'll split back and forth and think, oh no, Superman 1 is my favorite. But I think those two movies go well together. We did them on the podcast a couple of years ago. We're actually probably going to be doing Superman 3 here in a few weeks. We'll throw that out there for people who are listening. And people say, why would you do Superman 3? Well, it's watchable, and it's going to tie in with our Patreon for the month of July. So there's a reason for that. I don't know why I've been on Superman kick lately. I've just gone back and revisited those Christopher Reeve films again, and I find them very entertaining still. Even 40 years later, I think they're well done. Those first 2 films especially are very well done. But other than that, I've been diving hardcore into The Last of Us Part 2 still. I got it last Friday when we recorded, talked about it a little bit. I'm probably 13 hours into the game now, and every step and turn of this game is just really well done. It's continues to be a phenomenal game and storytelling. There's legitimate emotional stuff in this game that can make you cry. It can make you laugh, especially if you play part 1, because you get invested in the characters. There are scares. There are good jump scares in it. There's a part where something happens that you don't see coming, and it made me jump so hard I had to pause my controller and catch my breath. I mean, that's how legit that scare was. I was like, holy shit. So it uses the good old-fashioned horror jump scares in the game a little bit. One to the extent, like I said, I had to pause my controller. But just a phenomenal game. I don't, I can't say enough about the Last of Us series, and hopefully this one pays off and continues to play out well and end well. good storytelling. And at first I was kind of against turning this into any kind of a movie or a TV series, but I know HBO is involved now in talking about making a Last of Us television series, and I think if hopefully you get a producer that truly understands the product and the emotional core of what the game is, because I can tell you right now, The Last of Us, as much as it is about infected outbreak and human beings turning into creatures, it's also very much a story about Joel and Ellie and their survival through all this as human beings, and hopefully whoever makes the show understands the emotional core of what the game is, that it's not just a fighting I don't even know if you call them zombies, but infected creature game. There's a lot more to it. So the prospect of the idea of an HBO series, I think, could work well if whoever does it understands the product and they do it the right way. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Because video game adaptations generally aren't real well received, as we know. But again, I think as a television series, I think The Last of Us would be much better served than trying to do it in a 2-hour movie. That's for sure. Because you think about the extent of a game, whether it's Destiny or games you liked on your Xbox, games can take you 9 to 10 hours to complete. So there's a lot of storytelling in them. Some games are 20 to 25 hours, and you try to cram that down into a 2-hour movie. That's just not it's not kosher. You really have to sometime take the time to do it right. I mean, could you imagine like a Metal Gear Solid as a television series? I mean, it could be incredibly well done if you let that Metal Gear story play out over several episodes. And
if you pace it right and you don't try and rush it,
and you don't rush through it because there's so much happens in those games. So we'll see what they do with The Last of Us. But such a great game. It sold 4 million copies its first week. One of the biggest selling PlayStation 4 titles ever. But a lot of anticipation for the game. I mean, three years in development, almost 4 years since they announced it. They took their time with it and they got it right. And a lot of people are at home right now, so they're like, I'm going to buy a game. And it seems like everybody in the world, except for you Xbox users, bought The Last of Us Part 2 this past week.
Yeah.
But definitely good stuff, man. I mean, I can't say that. Maybe when the PS5 comes out, Matt, and the PlayStation 4 is dropping price, you can maybe grab you one, and just for that game.
Maybe so. Maybe I'll be tempted to get it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. We'll forgive you though for being an Xbox user in the meantime. But yeah, that's it, man. That's it for downloading this for me though. Not a lot. I mean, that game's taking up my time, and rightfully so. It deserves to. All right, well, let's get into today's featured film then. One that when it came out, this was a highly anticipated in some ways for the fact that at the time it was the what year was this? 96, 95?
95.
I don't remember. 95, yeah. It was the most expensive movie. Yeah, it was the most expensive movie to ever be made at that time. A budget of about $180 million, if I remember right. Which,
yes.
Fuck, man, $180 million is expensive now, even for a movie. I mean, so you imagine $180 million in 1995 is ridiculously expensive. I would imagine with inflation, that's probably $320 million, if not more, by now.
Oh, probably. It's easily. Yeah. Opening weekend, decent numbers too. 21 million. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin Costner was at the time. And of course, the movie we're talking about is Waterworld, and Kevin Costner at the time was a big star. He had a lot of clout in Hollywood coming off the success of Dances with the Wolves and Field of Dreams and other movies. So he could do no wrong. He was one of those actors that could get a project off the ground and have the studio back it. And Waterworld is a very ambitious movie. And to summarize this film, I guess I'll do the summary today. In the future, the ice caps have melted and covered the world in water. It's that simple. So people have to adapt, and they create these above water cities, or more like floating. They're like floating cities, sort of. And he plays a character called the Mariner, who's a very Mad Max-ish, almost like legendary type character that's out there in the water, and people have heard stories about him. And there's a legend that dry land is out there somewhere, and there's a little girl that's at this town that he visits, and she has a tattoo on her that might be the legendary map to dry land. So when the Mariner shows up, he's of course doing some trading, trying to get some product, and the smokers show up, and the smokers are led by Dennis Hopper playing Deacon is the bad guy's name. Hopper hams it up. He hams it up in this movie quite a bit. Actually, I kind of find him fun to watch, really.
Yeah, and, he's comical a little bit.
Yeah, and so from there, the movie kind of becomes generic. You know, the smokers find out about the tattooed girl. They want the tattooed girl. The mariner helps her, and he tries to escape with him. But then, of course, things happen, and he ends up having to rescue the girl to get her back, and lots of explosions occur. And it's all done on really fancy water sets, one of the largest water sets ever built.
Yeah, they also used that set for Titanic. Same water set. That's how big it was. That's how big the water set was. They were able to use it for the filming of the Titanic movie a few years later.
You know, and rewatching this movie this week, I actually saw this in theaters. Rewatch it this week. I find that the movie's very ambitious, especially for 19. Like, you watch this now, you're like, oh, this isn't that fancy. That's not that big of a deal because we are so used to big special effects and big set pieces now.
Yeah.
But for 1995, you have to put yourself in that time frame, and you can see how ambitious this film was. You know, to all be shot on water. A lot of practical effects in this, which are amazing. They built these sets and they built these boats, and they used all real effects because they wanted it to look as real as they could. And plus, CGI at that point wasn't what it is now. You know, almost 30 years later. And I think that for that being said, I think the movie looks really good. The problem with Waterworld is that it's pretty generic. They hyped it up for the most expensive movie ever made, these fancy sets and all this, and it's going to be this huge budget, you know, great, like spectacular film. And then you watch it and you're like, that's it. It's so cookie cutter. He's the hero. Yeah. The hero has a purpose now to save this girl. The hero gets in trouble, loses the girl. You got a cheesy 90s style bad guy. Hero has to rescue the girl. Movie's over. They find dry land at the end. The myth is true, but he decides that he's a water guy. So because he's going to stay on water, so he leaves, and that's it. And then there's a weird thing where he's like mutated, so he's got like gills, so the mariner can breathe underwater.
Yeah. Which apparently there's a few people out there that are like mutants, just adapting because the world changed. And webbed feet. Don't forget the webbed feet.
The webbed feet, which is a little odd, but you buy it because you're like, okay, it works, you know. But that's where the problem with Waterworld is, that it's pretty generic. Now, does that make it a bad movie? Not necessarily. There might be people that watched Waterworld at the time, and the critics did, and they didn't like it because of its genericness. But that, to me, doesn't make it necessarily a bad film. I found the film pretty enjoyable. I think Kevin Costner does his job in it. The set pieces are good enough to watch. Dennis Hopper, again, he's really good as Deacon. I actually like the way he's kind of cheesy, but he's kind of cheesy in like a snarky villain type of way, you know?
Yeah.
And Hopper's always a pleasure on screen. The movie definitely has a 90s sensibility to it with some that cheesy kind of dark humor along with the action scenes. So I think their movie has a lot going for it that keeps it from being an absolutely terrible movie or a train wreck. Because everyone says it's a train wreck. I don't really find it a train wreck of a movie. It's just, like I said, a very generic movie. Is that how you kind of felt?
Yeah, I felt like this movie, you know, at first I was just like, whenever you're like, oh, it's ambitious, you know, and that's what went wrong with it. At first I was like, it's a Kevin Costner movie. And I just kind of cast it off as, you know, look, you know, Costner had his couple hits, and then, you know, he just, you know, wasn't as good as he was. I mean, I went to go see the movie Dragonfly, you know, which he starred in with a girl just so I could, you know, make out with her in an empty theater. That's, you know, what I did with the Kevin Costner movie whenever I was in high school. You know, to me, he wasn't, you know, known for much more than Field of Dreams, and Bodyguard, and I mean, I really liked him in Dances with Wolves, and I personally liked him in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves because of flaming arrows, and that's it. And him shooting flaming arrows and Morgan Freeman was enough for me to like. And Sir Alan Rickman. That's my best Alan Rickman impersonation.
Costner's always held his own. He made.
Yeah, he's not a bad actor. He's just
Bull Durham's really good.
But saying that, I think if you did this movie a la Planet of the Apes and reveal Mount Everest, kind of like that's like the Statue of Liberty in your Planet of the Apes movie. I think you get a whole different movie if you treat it kind of like one of those films. I think we've just gotten better at post-apocalyptic movies. Other than Ridley Scott, was probably the first one to. Wait, not Ridley Scott. Who am I thinking of? Oh, Miller. George Miller, with Mad Max, of course. He's probably the first person to ever successfully do a post-apocalyptic movie, unless you look at Hitchcock's Omega Man, maybe, if you like that. But your post-apocalyptic movies are just way better now, and I think that if you redid Waterworld, it would just look a whole lot better, because they just didn't have the tech at the time. You got the Star Wars syndrome where you just didn't have the tech, and unfortunately, I don't know if they did enough to. I watched it in 4K. I watched the 4K conversion, and the water looked really good. But everything else, like you said, they tried to make it look real, so there's not much you can really do to improve those scenes. It kind of reminded me of Peter Pan a little bit, him flying out of the water, and then the soundtrack.
That's a pretty fair assessment of the film for its time. I mean, there is a director's cut or a television cut of this film out there that fleshes out Deacon's motivations a little bit more, and people say it makes the film better. Is like why Deacon is the smoker and why he created all this. And I've never seen that version. I've heard stories about like the creature in the water that appears in that version of the film and things like that. That version of the film is only available in the very expensive Arrow Blu-ray release, so it's not easy to get. So I've heard that about this film. But I think Costner is one of those actors. I think he's a better director than he is an actor. I mean, maybe not The Postman, but The Dances with Wolves is really good. One of my favorite modern westerns is Open Range with him, which I think is an excellent movie. Have you ever seen Open Range?
Is good.
I love that.
Aragorn.
No, that's Appaloosa. Open Range has Robert Duvall in it. And the crazy guy from Waterworld who comes on board to do the trade, he's in Open Range also.
Oh, okay.
Annette Bening's in it. Man, Open Range is such a good movie. One of my favorite modern westerns. And that's probably one of my weird things in Waterworld too. Let's go to that scene where the guy comes on board to trade and he talks all weird. There's absolutely no point to that entire scene in the movie. I realized that upon watching it again. I'm like, why does this whole scene exist? Just to show that the mariner is like, I
don't know. Maybe because they were trying to tease another triple horn, Lori triple horn nude scene or whatever.
Maybe, maybe there was something that was cut.
But it wasn't.
Yeah, it's not even her. It's a body double.
It's a body double.
Yeah, she didn't want to do it because I don't know. She felt some reason. I wonder if there either was a cut scene in there from that extended version that explains why the trade scene was in there, because it really is kind of purposeless to the film, other than to have the smokers show up right when he's done killing the guy and throwing his body in the water. But I guess it happens, and but you could cut that movie out and make the movie about 15 minutes shorter, and the movie still works just as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real fair assessment of where Waterworld sits as far as its legacy of an expensive film. I think that it's not I don't think it's necessarily a forgotten film or one that you would watch and forget. I think there's enough in it that makes it more memorable than some films of its style that are generic. I mean, I think you're going to leave and be somewhat impressed with the sets and the way the water looks. And I think Costner gives a fair enough performance in the movie and the action sequences, and especially Dennis Hopper. I think he does a really good job in this movie. And it's a year after his turn as a bad guy in Speed. So, Hopper was just doing the bad guy thing back then, I guess, And but I think overall, though, Waterworld's a fun movie. I'd say it's fun. I don't think it's boring. It's it was a good watch.
Yeah, no, you can definitely get through it better than, most of our Patreon episodes, I guess. But yeah, I think that there's a misconception that this film was a failure. There's a misconception because it made back its money in the theaters, and then whenever it got released onto home video, that's whenever they started seeing more revenue. So
yeah,
it really
turned
wasn't
profit
a failure.
It finally turned profit. What, after 10 years? I think I read in 2005 it finally turned profit from home video and television showings and things like that. So yeah.
Decent flick.
Yeah, I never thought about your point in that. Like when they find dry land at the end, like it might have been a little more epic to make that dry land be the top of, like you said, Mount Everest or an island or a famous island or something that floated into the water. I don't know. That could have been different. And what's funny is a scientific fact said that if the polar ice caps ever melted, that really only parts of the East Coast and parts of the West Coast would be underwater, not the entire world. But
California would be in trouble. You'd have all of California in the water.
Yeah, I mean, hell, we're right off the coast. We could be in trouble. I don't know how the polar ice caps work there. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah,
but let's hope that never happens, because I don't mind the water, but I really don't want to have to live on boats and run from guys that call themselves smokers and all that. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
And then they hiding underwater with the jet skis.
Yeah,
that was pretty.
I thought that scene was pretty cool. Yeah, like using air pipes to keep themselves under there, and then they shot themselves upward. I actually thought that scene was pretty well done.
That was cool. That was probably the coolest scene.
Yeah, that was a cool sequence.
Yeah.
And I like. No, go ahead.
Yeah, whenever Triple Horn was like, "I have something I can offer you," and then he's like, "Here's my ass," and then he's like, "I don't want you, you dirty woman."
I guess it's better than midget hookers from last week.
Yeah. Very true.
And the bungee jump at the end was kind of cool. It's like, he's like, "Here, just tie my foot, and I'm going to jump like a superhero and save the little girl." And that was kind of cool. It seems kind of plain now.
The shotgun. Yeah.
Compared to our special effects now, with the Vin Diesels of the world and stuff jumping out of cars or whatever, But for 1995, that was kind of a cool stunt, to pull off the bungee jump thing, with a CGI fire underneath Dennis Hopper as he falls into the fire and everything, But still kind of cool, How would you rank this movie?
I would give it a B-.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
B-. I feel like it's passable, and it was almost. It was almost a great movie, or almost a really good movie. So I'd just put it as like a passable good movie at a B-.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I want to try to catch the extended television version one day and see if it changes anything about it. But yeah, so Waterworld, man, I think like you said, it was an ambitious project, and maybe a little ahead of its time in some ways. And like you said, if they could have fleshed out the story a little bit more, maybe made it just a little more epic, it could have been a great movie. But it's still a decent B- fun movie to watch. And one, I'm not mad that we covered it. I think it was a fun movie to watch and talk about a little bit, and what made it work and what didn't work for the time it came out.
Yeah.
And maybe turn it on to some people that haven't seen it, because I think it is worth a watch. It's not something I would like if you've never seen it before. I would say, yeah, you should watch it. You might like it. So I think it has enough redeeming stuff in it to maybe like it for somebody who's never seen it before. So
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough to say. But yeah, so Waterworld, a B-. We both agree. That's like Siskel and Ebert,
Yes.
2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down. B- would be like thumbs sideways. All right, let's get into some news then, man. We're going to start it off with a bang with the big news that hit this week, and it's not a done deal yet, but Michael Keaton is in talks to reprise his role as Bruce Wayne Batman in the Flash movie, which also might be a Flashpoint movie, where they go tell the story of the Flash changing time.
Yeah.
And they want to apparently make Michael Keaton's Batman the new Batman of the DC cinematic universe, where he would be like the mentor to these guys, and the possibilities that Batgirl could be like his protege in the future. This idea is fucking awesome. I mean, there's no other way around it. Fans have been crying for them to make a Batman Beyond movie for a long time with Michael Keaton. Maybe this could lead to that, but for now, I'm just happy. Even if he doesn't put on the suit, I think it'd be great to have Michael Keaton back as Bruce Wayne. I hope this deal gets done and this happens because I think it's really exciting. And let's face it, the DC EU, as they call it, Extended Universe, needs a jolt in the pants right now. They've got Wonder Woman, but they really need a jolt in the pants.
Yeah, she can't be the Tahoe. She can't be a Tahoe and put the whole DC universe on her back,
right?
And carry it. We've got to do something ambitious that and it's tangible. We can do this now. And if Keaton's on board, I think it's going to be a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Batman 1989. If you listen to our latest Patreon for just $2 a month, you can listen to that new episode. Yes, that's a quick plug there. Go to the rebelradiopodcast.com and join our Patreon. We talk a little bit about what 1989 Batman meant to us, and for me, it's a very important film that got me into Batman, and the same for you, Matt. So as much as I like Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy and I love Christian Bale's Batman, Michael Keaton is always going to have a special place in my heart as Batman. So super excited that this is possibly going to happen, and let's cross our fingers that they get that deal signed and they make it happen.
I hope so.
Don't get too excited there, man. And so in some kind of sad Batman news, Joel Schumacher, the director of Batman Forever and the much maligned Batman and Robin, he passed away this week at the age of 88 after a battle with cancer. Of course, he also probably is best known for directing The Lost Boys. I would imagine that's probably his biggest film as far as our genre of pictures we go. But he came in and people want to knock Joel Schumacher for making Batman a little more cheesy, but that's what Warner Brothers wanted. If you go read interviews for what he did, they weren't real thrilled with Tim Burton's Dark Universe. They wanted Tim Burton to make Batman triumphant, more light and more fun, and that's when Tim Burton refused and he backed out and he ended up not making Batman triumphant. So they handed the keys to Joel Schumacher, and he did what the studio asked him to do. He made Batman a little more light, a little more fun. I actually find Batman Forever kind of enjoyable. There's parts in that movie I like. The fact that it's still the best, let's face it, it's still one of the better live-action versions of Robin, and not that we've had a lot to choose from. Batman and Robin is a absolute turtle in a stick. At that point, it was just a paycheck for everybody. Nobody gave a fuck about the movie. We're like, hey, let's get paid and make a stupid Batman movie. But Schumacher is still part of the legacy, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, he also did Flatliners.
Oh yeah.
He also did Falling Down and St. Elmo's Fire. So those are some other films that you probably think of. And I remember seeing Phone Booth.
Yeah.
Whenever that came out, because it looked like it was a thriller. Forrest Whitaker. So I remember that. It's not one of his better known films.
No.
It was it
was one of Colin Farrell's early starring roles. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was. I remember 8mm, but that one's a mess.
Yeah, that wasn't very good. We're gonna stay in DC. We got a trailer this week. As we know, we recently talked about Justice League Dark Apocalypse War ending the current continuity of the DC animated movies as we know it. No official word yet on whether this new movie is going to start a new continuity or it's a standalone. But we got a trailer for Superman Man of Tomorrow. And I'm watching the trailer, and I really kind of thought it was cool. Like, the animation is real clean compared to the other animation. I realized we never really had an animated Superman origin story told. So it could be really interesting to see how they do that. I always think Lobo is a really cool character. So I see an animated trailer and it has Lobo in it. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. That can be cool. Because it's also nice to see Superman go up behind. It's also nice to see Superman go up to get somebody besides Brainiac or Lex Luthor. So kind of refreshing. It's coming out in September 8th, I believe, on Blu-ray, and probably on digital a couple weeks before that. So we'll see where the DC universe goes after Justice League Dark Apocalypse. So Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Did you get a chance to check that trailer?
I did not get a chance to. I started the trailer and then something happened. I might have to go change a diaper, or maybe the wife was like, I need you to do this, and so I was just like, okay, I'll watch it later, and later never happened.
That's right. That's been the theme of the episode, poop. Speaking of poop, at least poo-poo superheroes that don't know how to act right. The Boys season 2 is going to premiere September 4th on Amazon Prime, and when we were talking about The Boys last summer, I wasn't real sold on the show at first. I didn't like it as much as everybody else. But by the time I got to the end of the episode, or the end of the first season, I ended up liking it quite a bit. And I'm really looking forward to season 2 to see what they do next. So that's exciting news that we're getting season 2 here in just a couple of months. Hopefully more shenanigans ensue, lots of violence. And we'll see if Homelander is the asshole he is, or if he's not quite the asshole based on how the first season ended. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really liked how the first season ended. I mean, I think it makes you wonder what's going to happen with oh man, I want to say Starfire, but I know Starlight.
Starlight.
And these characters grew on me. I mean, Carl Urban as Butcher,
but
he's just awesome.
At the same time, they're all despicable characters, but yet some reason you find yourself rooting for them.
Yeah, I think the only one that is normal is Huey. Huey's the only normal one.
He's trying to keep it all together anyway.
You're rooting for... Yeah, he's trying to keep it together, and you feel for him because of what happened to him. And, I think we've always had those moments where we wanted to stand up and fight and fight back. And we're like, man, we wish we would have said this. And William is like pushing him to be that guy that just says, fuck it, and fuck the system.
And he's almost had those moments a couple of times. Somehow he's trying to keep the bit of morals left that he has in him. But we'll see how much longer he's going to be able to do that with Billy Butcher keeping him moving forward and making him do despicable things. So we'll see. But we'll find out where it goes when it comes out September 4th on Amazon Prime. Lastly, Disney, apparently there's a word out today that Margot Robbie and Christina Madsen are going to be in a female reboot of Pirates of the Caribbean. I have two thoughts on this. One, why? Second, okay, I'll watch anything Margot Robbie does. So,
yes.
I don't know. I don't hate the pirate movies, but I also feel like it's been beaten down enough that I guess it's better than another Johnny Depp film, to try something different with females. So we'll see if there's any wind to this. Margot Robbie is the hot A-list actress in Hollywood right now, so I imagine she could pretty much get any scripts that she wants, and we'll see. Waverly, not right now. You guys are really on my nerves today. I'm trying to be patient.
Does that bring us to our weekly top 5 now that we've mentioned Margot Robbie?
Yes, that was my whole thought when I was doing the news earlier today was like, what could the top 5 be? And I was like, you know what? Let's have some fun with the top 5. So yes, that brings us to our weekly top 5, a new feature we started about a few weeks ago where we do a little top 5 list every week of just whatever we come up with. And so we decided to do our top 5 celebrity crushes we have had over the years or right now or whenever. So we're going to have a little fun with this. And any female listeners out there, believe us, we're not trying to be chauvinistic or anything. We're just trying to have some fun and have a good time. Because let's face it, ladies, y'all have male celebrity crushes too. Because if there's one female out there that tells me they don't find Ryan Reynolds hot, they must be a lesbian. So
it's true. It's true.
So Matt, what is your number 5? I will let you go first, man.
Yeah, I have down Zoe Saldana.
Good choice.
As number 5. I think she's just, she's awesome. I mean, she's beautiful.
Especially the bottle.
She's tough.
Especially the bodysuit scene in Columbiana.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I think she had a pretty sexy scene in The Losers also, if I remember right. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have...
What about you? Your top 5?
I have Selma Hayek at number 5. And obviously Selma could be number 1 all day long too, but who can forget her scenes in Desperado or From Dusk Till Dawn. She is a woman of my dreams.
Definitely. Yes. It was hard. This was a tough list to make because, I'm thinking of, my initial thought was thinking of, who, really, kind of got me rumbling whenever I was a teenager. And I was like,
17.
Yasmin
Right?
Bleeth, Pamela Anderson, Christina Applegate. And I was like, man, I said, maybe I should make it more recent, maybe the last 10 years or so. I was like, had to readjust, recalibrate my sensors whenever I was, doing this list. But I asked my wife's too. I was like, I had some fun. I was like, I bet I could think of yours. And I'm like, Channing Tatum, Vin Diesel, Jason Momoa, Johnny Depp, and I got most of them. I got like 3 on that list, I think.
You only did that so you don't. You did that so you don't get in trouble.
Exactly.
You usually want to get in trouble when she knew why you're making a list.
Be like, hey, you women have a list too. You women
exactly. So who do you have at number 4?
Number 4 for me, Aubrey Plaza. I know she's like this kind of far out there pick, but she's just so weird. But she's pretty too.
She's in Scott Pilgrim, right? Is she in Scott Pilgrim?
I don't know if she's. Yeah. I don't.
She's
think
like the coffee. I thought she's a coffee chick.
Is she a coffee chick?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. I mean, I know she was in. She's in Parks and Rec, and she's been in some films recently, but she's just very weird, and she's very awkward, but very pretty as well. And I think she's kind of like that Anna Faris type, where she's just got this great personality that just kind of makes you like intrigued with her. So
she's Julie Powers. She plays
my number 4.
She's his sister. She's Scott's sister.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. I just watched Scott Pilgrim a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, she's in there.
Oh, okay.
That's
I haven't
a good
watched
pick.
it in a few years.
We need to fucking do Scott Pilgrim on the show. It's. I didn't know if it would hold up, being that I'm 10 years older and I would look at that movie different, but I still really enjoyed it a lot. At number 4, I have Rosario Dawson, who I've always loved. Nice. I literally went to her panel at Compalooza just so I could say I was in the same room as her. I didn't give a fuck what she was talking about on stage. All you need to see from her is the dancing scene in Clerks 2, and you'll know why you love her. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes.
So give me your number 3.
My number 3, I know you're probably expecting this, but Ronda Rousey is number 3 for me. She's like a coin. She's got 2 sides. She's got that. I know. I'll say it. You got this mannish, warrior type side to her, which I kind of find like intriguing and cool. And then she's got this like she can look like a supermodel too. So she's like this mix of the two. She's an ass kicker.
Yeah.
That's why she's number 3 for me.
You have this weird getting your ass kicked fantasy. Let's just all admit that.
Probably. Maybe that's it. I want her to beat me up.
You mentioned earlier going back to ones we grew up with. So this one is kind of one for me. I go back to the era in which she made Tomb Raider and stuff like that. And she's still a beautiful woman, but I'm talking like 32-year-old Angelina Jolie when she was in the prime. And there was just something about her that she just oozed the sexiness about her at that time when she was making those movies.
The eyes, the lips.
Yes. And I still think that she's a really pretty woman. And Angelina Jolie, she could kick my ass every day and I would let her, And
yes.
So yeah, that's my number 3. Who do you got at number 2?
Number 2, I have the layup, pick ScarJo.
That's who I have at number 2 also.
Just saying her name. Yeah. She speaks for herself. I mean, she's awesome.
I could have put her at number 1. I have her at number 2. The first thing I remember seeing her in, honestly, is The Island with Ewan McGregor, which isn't a great film, but I remember seeing her in that and thinking like, wow, she's really pretty. And then of course she's going on to be successful as Black Widow. And I actually really I think Lucy is a pretty cool film, with her in it. But yeah, I could talk about. We could do a whole episode devoted to Scarlett Johansson. I probably wouldn't get bored.
Absolutely.
And so do we have the same number one also?
I don't think so. I guarantee you we have a different number one.
Okay, good. All right.
I bet I could guess yours, and I think we mentioned her in this episode already. Mine is Modern Family's Sofia Vergara.
But that's such a cliche pick, though.
Dude, I love Hispanic women.
No, I mean she's beautiful. I mean she's getting a little up there in age, But that's such an easy pick. You took an easy route with that one.
I mean, the number ones are going to be. I mean, it could have been Selma Hayek, and people would have understood.
Yeah.
I guess I could have.
No, I mean, no, she's a good pick. She's a good pick. It's just not very adventurous.
Her attitude. Yeah. Not adventurous, just generic.
Yeah, not that my pick is that adventurous either. But my number one is the most recent star. The most recent star on the list. And the moment I watched Wolf of Wall Street, I said, okay, yeah, I'm in love with her. That's Margot Robbie, of course. I think that she's also a really good actress. Like, she's fantastic in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She's really good in The Wolf of Wall Street also, and some really fantastic scenes in The Wolf of Wall Street that I'm trying to keep PG-13 since my son is in the room. But let's just say me and her might have spent a private night together. And we'll just leave it at that. Right? And the scene in the bedroom in Wolf of Wall Street where Daddy's not going to have this anymore. Oh man, that's just painful for any man to watch. You actually feel for Jordan Belfort at that moment. You're like, that's just not fair. It's like, I mean, he's
she's like it's the last time, time.
I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jordan Belfort's a despicable character because everything he does is illegal. But that scene, you just really kind of feel bad for him. You're like, that's not fair to any man. And she pulls it off, and she's a good actress too, and a beautiful one at that. So that's our weekly top five. A little fun with it this week. A little tongue in cheekiness with our top five celebrity crushes. So. That was fun to do that. Something a little different. Well, before we get out of here, we let's preview next week's film. Long will be back next week. He actually picked this film to do with the July 4th weekend next week, and even though our episode doesn't come out until Monday, we're going to look back on a classic war film and do a little July 4th celebrating and look back at the film that stars Morgan Freeman and Matthew Broderick, and that is Glory.
I understand you were at Antietam.
Yes.
A great and a terrible day. I could use your help, Robert.
The governor is proposing to raise a regiment of Negro soldiers.
I've submitted your name to be commissioned colonel of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry.
I mean, I know how much you'd like to make colonel, but a colored regiment? I'm gonna do it.
Dear Mother, the men learn very quickly. Faster than white troops, it seems to me.
They have risked their lives to be here. They have given up their freedom. I owe them as much as they have given. I owe them my freedom. My life, if necessary.
1911. I can knock something down with this.
1 million loyal readers want to know what happens when the men of the 54th see action.
Ain't no dream. We run away slaves, but we come back fighting.
1,000,001.
Marching is probably all they'll ever get to do.
And they gotta know that nobody's gonna let them fight. Am I right?
Let you take your regiment out to fight.
When?
Just as soon as I can write the orders.
Here they come!
If you men will take no pay, then none of us will.
I know, 'cause I dug the grave. Long time I'm digging, I'm asking myself when, oh Lord, gonna be our time.
See, the way I figured this war would be over a whole lot sooner if you boys just turn right on and you let us head on up there where the real fight is.
You should have seen us in action 2 days ago. We were a sight to see.
If tomorrow is our great getting up morning, if tomorrow we have to meet the judgment day, we want them to know that we went down standing up.
Yes, Lord.
We want them to know, Heavenly Father, that we died for freedom.
The Civil War epic, mid-90s. It's been a long time since I've watched this movie. I remember it being really good when I watched it. It's interesting. Matthew Broderick, we did Godzilla on our Patreon episode, and he never had a hugely successful movie career. He did Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was relatively successful, in War Games. But Glory might be his most serious film he ever did, if I remember right. So it's on Amazon Prime right now. It's on Amazon Prime right now. So anybody out there wants to watch along with us for next week, we are going to do Glory for July 4th weekend. So it should be a fun one to watch because it's been a while since I've seen that film. So we're going to get a little more with a serious film next week, but then we'll get back to some sci-fi and some comic movies coming up at the end of the rest of July and stuff coming up. But yeah, that's all I've got this week. Unless you've got anything, as always, go to the rebelradiopodcast.com for all your Rebel Radio needs. And we thank you guys for continuing to listen to us throughout the pandemic that has swept the world, and we hope we've entertained you in some ways. And if you'd like, join our Patreon so you can listen to our new episode, which is the god-awful, horrible Red Sonja. But we had some fun with it. For just $2 a month, you can listen to that episode and all of our Patreon episodes that are on our Patreon. Just go to the RebelRadioPodcast.com and click the Patreon link to join if you'd like. And make sure you follow us on all social media while you're there. But as always, thank you for listening. We do appreciate it. And as we just got past 200 episodes, and we march forward, having fun doing this show. But this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
He's almost fallen asleep over there, despite all the coffee he's drinking. But as always, thank you again for listening. And remember, just go there and do it.
Just go there and do it.
This is Booker T, Hall of Famer, and you're listening to Rubber Radio. Now, can you dig that, sucker?
Sam Jones, Flash Gordon, and this is Rebel Radio Podcast.